Hey everybody, welcome back to Feedback Loop. I'm Jeremy,
And I'm Joey.
and this week we're back. We took a 1 week break due to personal health crises.
Yeah,
I
not
suppose.
COVID crisis though.
Not
It's
COVID, just some seasonal
yeah.
illnesses. But yeah, so we're back. This week we are talking about the album that we said that we were going to be talking about last week, which is Lane 8's Cross Pollination album that released this year.
Last year. It's 2020.
Last year. God, time doesn't mean anything anymore.
I
Man.
know, dude. It's crazy.
It's such a fucking blur. But yeah, it released in 2020. It's almost 2022 now, which is also crazy to me. I guess by
Jesus.
the time you guys are listening to this, it will be 2022. So happy 2022 for
Hey.
that. But yeah, this album was just kind of one of those out of the blue picks. It came across my feed a few months ago. I don't remember when it was. We were listening to Rufus Du Sol. And it came on my shuffle playlist from him, and thought it sounded cool enough to check out, and we'll see if that was the case.
We definitely checked it out, that's for sure. That's
That
a
is,
thing that happened.
we did check it out, and we knew it was our time to talk about it, because track number 1 on this album is "And We Knew It Was Our Time."
Hey, starting off strong. Coming
Yeah,
out of the
we're
gate hot.
little rusty, gotta shake the rust off. Yeah, so I knew mostly what it was going into it. This was the one song that I had heard by Lane 8, and I think Joey was already looped in. I think in the last episode, which was like 3 weeks ago now at this point, I believe I mentioned that it was kind of like some electro housey kind of dealio, and that's what it is.
Yeah, when you told me that you'd heard it through Rufus Du Sol, back whenever we first started like conceptualizing that we were going to do this podcast, we thought maybe we were going to do like episodes on discographies. So I listened to everything by Rufus Du Sol, and I had probably heard inadvertently a feature of Lane 8. So I kind of knew it was in that ballpark.
Cool. So neither of us were completely blind, but neither of us had heard this album specifically. So here we are, track number 1. It's got this kind of like, I don't know. It's very much like this electro housey thing. It starts kind of like slow and peaceful, and then it just builds. It adds in some like plucky funk guitar kind of stuff, some synth chords, piano lead, and I feel like this track reminds me a lot of Deadmau5's Strobe.
Yep.
And a lot of this album, like, I mean, it's in that genre, right? It's a lot of the same, like, kind of electro housing, and a lot of this album kind of hits the thing, but everything sounds like super clean. The builds are nice, the progression is smooth, and I think on every single track I've made this comment, so I'm going to actually not read it, but the sounds used on this album, the sound of the synth and all the drums and all the instruments and stuff, they're very like well chosen, I think, and they blend with each other very well.
Yeah, for real. Like Deadmau5 is a very apt comparison, not only because it's in the same genre, but because I feel like the like you said, it's just so clean, and I feel like Deadmau5 has that where it's like
Yeah,
everything is picked so perfectly, and this like 3 minutes into this song, like
yeah.
the
The song is
melody.
9.5 minutes long.
Yeah, it's 9.5 minutes long, longest song on the album. Actually, it takes up about a third of the whole album.
Yeah,
But I mean, it's a really fucking good song. Like 3 minutes into the song, I just knew this whole album was gonna be good. It was just like a jam. It's an absolute jam, and it like I don't know the song. It kind of has this I don't know, House, it does this thing where about halfway through or a part of the way through, like the song will just kind of back out and then it rebuilds. Like it'll build up to this part where it kind of goes away and then comes back stronger.
yeah,
And I mean, a lot of the songs on this album do that. It's kind of a staple of this type of music. But whenever this song comes back, this really cool, like pipey, whistly synth takes over the lead, and it adds a really cool texture right before the main melody comes back, and I feel like
yeah.
that it's just little touches like that really make this it puts it over the edge into something that I would actually like recommend this to somebody else after listening to this album.
Yeah, yeah. It feels like there's a lot of like time and care put into every single decision and every layer and every sound and everything. It feels very well produced, which is good when someone is producing music like this. I think he actually just released a new album, or is planning on releasing an album next year as well. So maybe it looks like it's slated for 2022, but there are some singles out for it. So
Yeah,
that'll be fun to check into. But
super
yeah,
fun.
it's cool shit. It's firmly in its genre. It doesn't necessarily shatter any expectations of the genre, but it is very well made.
Yeah, and it does have more than one track, so we can just move on to track number 2, Shatter.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Killing it. We're right back at it.
So you didn't mention any lyrics. That would be because there's mostly no lyrics to this album.
That's true. It is mostly an instrumental. Is it considered instrumental if it's electronic music, or
I
is it just considered electronic music?
I would just consider it electronic music, but I guess technically it would just be instrumental. I don't know. Some people might that might be a hot take depending on what people's
Yeah,
definition of
because there's not
instruments
like
are.
live instruments for most of it.
Yeah, but
So is it
computers are
actually
instruments
instrumental?
too.
Fair enough. I'll accept that answer. But yeah, so continuing the theme, Shatter also does not have any vocals on it. It has this nice kind of like soft wintry piano lead that's accompanied by there's some voice samples in this, but you can't really make out what's being said, or at least I couldn't. Maybe he's just saying Shatter.
He is just saying Shatter.
Okay, well there you go. I'm not that attentive. I didn't put too much thought into it. But there's this like kind of synth wavy bass line that comes in. That's pretty cool. The drop on this one is very it's like sparkly sounding is the way I described it, and it has just a little hint of like some glitchy effects and stuff, and then it kind of goes back to the piano. And this one, I promise I don't compare every track on this album to another artist. It's just this one stood out. Like there's very much the Dead Mouse vibe on the whole album, but
Yeah.
this one, just some of the little touches reminded me a bit of Porter Robinson, which is always a good thing.
Yeah, I mean, you all know how we reacted to Nurture earlier this year, so
Yeah,
but yeah, I totally agree. Like, it's just super cool and retro. Like, it's got this cool retro feel to it without actually sounding like, I don't know. You mentioned synthwave, and I do feel like that's a very good descriptor of kind of the
yeah,
general feel of some of the sounds that are on this album. But he doesn't take it so far that it's like you're listening to it and you're like, "Whoa, the '80s" or something. It's
yeah. It's definitely
but
modern.
yeah, but it's just really cool how he kind of modernized it, but it still hits that same feel. Like this song, well, I mean, this whole album would just be a super cool night drive album, I think,
Yeah,
because it hits that same feel. And I mean, usually synthwave or like retro wave type albums are a lot of the ones that I really like listening to at night. And this one is too, I guess.
not an exception
Yeah, not an exception.
to the rule here. But yeah, I also agree with it being a good driving album, and I think I call it out in the next track or one of the later tracks. It's I mean it came to me on my playlist while I was driving and listening to Rufus Du Sol, and it fit perfectly. I mean, obviously it had the impact if I was like, I want to listen to that more. So
Yeah.
definitely that kind of vibe.
Yeah, like just driving down the road with the wind in your hair, probably because you don't have a roof. You're driving a dune buggy of some sort.
Yeah, a little
And
doom buggy
a little dune buggy. I
in
couldn't
my
I couldn't
hand.
help it.
Hey, track number 3 is buggy, so it works.
Yeah,
It
but
was a segue.
yeah, it was a segue, and I was
I,
also I'm thinking of the presidents of the United States of
yeah,
America.
little doom buggy.
This,
Anyways, yeah,
yeah.
I don't have a buggy because
Well,
that's what's on people's mind. I don't have a dune buggy, and
that's
I'm
good.
not sure if I had one, if I would choose to take my night drives. I mean, maybe in the summer, perhaps, but
Well,
I
I
don't know.
can tell
I feel
you.
like I like having a windshield.
Yeah, it's a good thing to have. My dad bought a dune buggy at one point just because he went through a period where he was like, I don't want to call it a midlife crisis because it didn't seem like a crisis, but he bought like a dune buggy, he bought a motorcycle, he like was really into,
Projects.
yeah, like stuff like that.
Yeah.
And he still has his motorcycle, but he sold the dune buggy and he drove it a few times, and I think he was just like, no, not having a windshield is terrible.
Yeah, yeah. There's a reason cars have them, and
Yeah.
it's not just to keep buggies out of your eyes. It's to keep the wind out. It's I mean the wind shield.
The wind, yeah,
So
it shields you
right
from the
there,
wind.
it's right there in the name.
But this
Nothing to do
song,
with this track.
Buggy, things that have to do with this track. This one, it picks up the energy right away with like a really nice boppy synth that takes up a bouncy melody, And like hearing this song specifically is kind of what blew my mind, that I hadn't paid more attention to Lane 8 sooner. Like,
Mhm.
I mean, I feel like I should have found this guy before, but I didn't. I guess I just didn't look hard enough. I wish that I would
There's
have.
so many artists out there.
Yeah,
You can't blame yourself for not finding one.
that's true. This song, it just really stood out to me. It's got this really cool like honky voice in the back, I guess is a way that I could describe it. But it just really goes along with certain parts of the melody, and everything about this is just so cool. And it's everything that I want out of, I guess, this type of electronic house
Yeah.
music. It just makes me feel really good. And like, I even put in my notes that it was a pick me up, because I've
Oh
been
yeah.
having like sinus infections and shit. I've just been feeling so out of it. But then like this song, it gave me a little bit of pep when not much else was giving me pep.
Yeah, this I think pep is a good word to use when describing this album in general. It's very peppy at times, whereas it kind of gets dancey is the words that I use to describe it. But I like
Hmm.
peppy better because everyone knows Joey doesn't dance,
No,
so
yeah.
pep makes sense. This one stood out immediately to me as well. Not I don't have as strong of a reaction to it in general, but there's no like slow building intro section that were on the first two tracks, and that's kind of a staple of the genre. There's not as much of that build. It just kind of launches right into it. And like you said, it's a very like upbeat, kind of driving, peppy sounding song, which is it's cool. It's a good sound. There is an ambient sound he uses that's like this really like whining kind of like noise in the middle of the track before the final drop, I guess, of it that really stood out to me. I'm like, I like that. I like the inclusion of this kind of whiny, kind of belt sound to it. I don't know why that stood out to me.
I mean, it's probably just because the song's really good. Like, it just feels so starry and beautiful and energetic without going overboard at all. It it makes me feel like I want to run somewhere. Like,
Maybe you should run to track number 4. Run is the name of track number 4.
hell yeah. Which this one is, disclaimer. This is the one song on the album that has like lyrics.
Yeah,
But it starts off a little bit more bassy than the previous tracks. That's what I got out of it. It
yeah,
brings back some of the retro sounds from Shatter, and as the music comes in, it kind of builds off that bassy sound and really brings it up. And it's backed by some cool claps in the back, like, and it just really complements the bouncy feel of that bass and kind of the heavier direction that the music took. And the drums is, I don't know, it's kind of weird to talk about drums and electronic music, but I felt like the drums really kept up energy without too much effort, without being too noticeable.
yeah. I agree. It is it's a nice change of style, and this is the midpoint of the album, so it's kind of it's breaking up the album a little bit and saying, hey, like we're gonna take a little detour and do something fresh for this album, but it is still very much within the similar kind of vein of Lane 8's music. So
Yeah.
it's not too far out of the way, but it is a noticeable change, I think. And yeah, the vocal track is a standout as well because up to this point there have been samples, but not really any vocals, and they got some cool effects on that as well. But yeah, it is what it is.
And in spirit of lyrics, I mean, I don't want to do them a disservice, but it's kind of just your standard electronic, like slap some vocals on there,
Yeah, it's like a
fair,
pop hook.
yeah. Which I mean, is fine. I prefer the music though. Like the music is
Yeah,
why I'm here, and the
yeah. I
vocals are
mean,
kind of just like, eh.
I think that's kind of intentional. I mean, yeah, it's there as a pop hook to like get people interested because people like hearing a human voice, right? People like hearing words and being able to sing along or whatever. But the way I tend to view music in general is, I think, exemplified in this kind of like house music where it's also there as just like a texture, as like a sound, as like an instrument,
Yeah,
more so than necessarily trying to say a message that's super deep and meaningful. Like in this one, he's just saying that he's gonna run to someone because that's a generic lovey pop feeling, just wanting to
yeah.
run to somebody.
Definitely. And I mean it adds the texture in the same way that like I guess the growling in death metal, you can't really
Okay.
understand the lyrics. It just adds a bit of added texture there.
You
Um,
can't tell people that you don't understand the lyrics, Joey. That's
I,
giving it away.
I
People
mean, I
think people think that people understand death metal lyrics.
I do understand the lyrics. Black metal lyrics though are very hard to understand, but death metal lyrics are once you get used to them, they're not too bad.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
you just need a little bit of focus, something to give you focus. I guess like some caffeine. You know, speaking of caffeine, I got for Christmas. I got some really cool green tea. It's like
yeah.
this. It's this powder. It's called matcha. They make it out of I guess like these certain type of green tea leaves. I was trying to mix it up though because you can't steep it like normal tea since it's just a powder. You kind of have to pour it into your water and whisk it around with like a special whisk, but I just cannot get the hang of it for the life of me. Like every time I make it just ends up this mess. I'm just making matcha mistakes all over the place, and it's never as good as I feel like it should be.
That was a very long-winded segue, but I understand why. Track number 5 is called Macho Mistake. I was like, man, he's really going out of his way for this one.
I couldn't figure out a way to fully integrate it, so
Hey, I like it. I'm here for it. The fans love it. You can hear them cheering now.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. But yeah, this one, yet again, I really like the sounds, the synths, the drums, everything in it. This song actually kind of has like this inquisitive feeling for me, where it kind of like it feels like it's asking a rhetorical question, and then it goes and explains the answer anyway. With this, just kind of like there's a suspense built, I think, where the melodies are kind of feeling like they were cut short or they were ended and waiting for a response kind of a thing, but then continuing anyway. That it's a very cool feeling. And then the ending outro section has this really nice super low bass kind of thing. It feels good. I really like the song.
Yeah, I really like this song as well. It does have like I don't know, you put it really well. It has kind of like a question and answer vibe to it. And I feel like vibe is a very good word for this song because the energy isn't like giant or anything,
Right.
but the vibe is just so big because like overall the song is like it's more restrained than other tracks on this album, but everything that is here works super well. And I want to call out around halfway through, there's this little cool effect that, like the synth, it kind of like slows down, but as it's coming back in, it starts to get a little bit faster. And it has this really tinny quality to it that almost makes it sound like glass balls bouncing and
Yeah.
getting faster, like closer to the floor. And I don't, it's just a really cool sound. Sounds, man. I like the
Sounds.
sounds.
They're cool. They're cool sounds. If you want cool sounds, listen to this album.
Hell yeah.
Maybe we can all get together. We're gonna have a listening party, so we'll send out invites, and then once we get there, we'll do a roll call and make sure everyone's there, and then we can just vibe to these sounds.
Hell yeah. As long as we make sure Enderholm's there, then we can move on to track 6, Roll Call, featuring Enderholm. I mean, all these songs have
Really,
been featuring people, we just didn't say it, but I felt like
yeah. A
if we're
lot of
naming
these
names.
are YouTube doesn't credit anybody else on these tracks, but I did see on Genius that pretty much all of them, if not all of them, were collaborations with other artists.
Which, I mean, the album's called Cross Pollination, so maybe that's
Could
the
be. It
deal.
could be the intention, the meme, as the kids say,
Those
and
fucking kids.
dang millennials,
Yeah,
ruin it.
dude.
Zoomers.
Are we millennials? Is that what?
Yeah, we
Oh,
are,
okay.
but I can still yell at them because I'm an old man at heart.
Hell yeah, you're an old soul.
Yeah, this one, roll call, starts with this kind of like record skipping loop thing happening, which is cool. And then the vocal sample comes in and the lead synth builds and it kind of hits this dark nightclubby vibe, and I'm a fan of it. It's more of a slow burn of the song. It doesn't really like progress a whole lot in the first half, and it makes the last kind of drop land so much better because of it. I really like the progression of the song.
Yeah, definitely. Like nightclub is a good way to describe it. It's got like a dark sound to a lot of it. And there's this rolling bass behind the music that I couldn't help but turn the song up because I just wanted to feel it in my head, which
Hell yeah.
like I guess I disclaimer, don't listen to songs super super loud because it'll hurt your hearing. But
Yeah.
I had to do it here. But then yeah, it whenever it slows down, it does its kind of midpoint regroup. It has this really cool wavy sounding chords over the main kind of beat melody that builds it back up. And yeah, like the outro, or I guess the second half of this song is, man, it's just a ride straight out of the song. It's great.
Yeah. Very, very well done. I enjoy the song. Man, every song on this album is just cool in its own way.
Yeah, dude. Fucking out of sight, bro.
Yeah, fucking groovy. Man, back in the 70s talking about track number 7, Out of Sight.
70s and 7.
Wild segues here today, folks.
Oh my
Man, we are
God.
flying through this. I know we sometimes state at the top of the episode that it'll be a quick week, and then it never is. This week we didn't declare it at the beginning, and it is.
Oh my
It's gonna be a
God! I
quick
just checked the time. I
Yeah.
haven't looked. Jesus fucking Christ!
week.
You're
Okay,
in for a
cover your ears, folks. We're getting an air horn maybe if this works.
Dude, it worked. At least I heard
Right.
it. I don't know if they heard it.
Okay, we're on the final track. We're flying through the shit. You guys are gonna get like 40 minutes of your life back.
Holy
That
shit!
normally wouldn't have. Apologies for the air horn if it's super loud. I'll turn it down in post. But yeah, track number 7, Out of Sight. We should probably finish this instead of talking for another 20 minutes about how we finished early.
Hell yeah! Oh, so a real light key part comes in over once again, bringing back the drums on an electronic song. A cool drum beat to bring this one in. Then this heavy bass comes in to back it up as the key part picks up a little bit. There's these really cool brass stab sounding parts that come in just to spice things up, just to shake it up. But then whenever the song, drops out and it comes back, these synths that come back in with it are just so retro cool. I don't know what the fuck I was thinking whenever I wrote that, but I wrote retro cool, like
Hell yeah.
as if I was some sort of like beat poet or something. But
You
the
are.
pounding bass drum comes in even harder with those brass sounding parts from before. And man, something about this song just sounds warm and cold at the same time. Like it's wrapping you in like an ice blanket.
Yeah, it has some like kind of weirdly ambient vibes to it while still maintaining a lot of like the progressive electronic elements of it as well. So it's kind of a fun way to end the album. It ties in a lot of things, and you've pretty much mentioned everything that I was going to mention. And those bumpy synth horns are just, they're so good, and they're fun, and they're like distorted and stretched and used throughout like the last half of the song, and it feels good. Again, the sounds on this album,
The sounds.
they're expertly chosen and
Yeah.
implemented.
Good job, Lane 8.
Yeah, I didn't even look up your real name, but
Me
I don't
either.
need to, because you're an artist named Lane 8, and that's what you want to be called, presumably. So
Yeah, I would imagine. Like, I don't know. Okay, here we go. Daniel Goldstein.
there you go, Daniel.
Reach out to us and tell us what you
Yeah,
prefer.
we're on first name basis with Daniel, the guy that we just learned his name.
He's
But
lucky
yeah,
I had the Genius page up.
Cool ass album, Mr. Lane 8 / Daniel. This album didn't like evoke a ton of imagery like a lot of the instrumental albums that we've done so far. It's just some like dancey stuff, and that's totally okay with me. Like, there's a lot of cool sounds. It's a fun album to just kind of put on and dance around with, or just bob your head, or just kind of to get in the groove and feel it.
Yeah, dude. I definitely felt this album. Like,
Hell yeah.
it didn't go anywhere in my mind. I didn't have a journey, but not everything has to be a journey.
Yeah, some things just just pep you up,
Hell yeah,
make
pep,
you feel
dude.
peppy.
So much
Hashtag pep.
Pepe Le Pew.
Tweet us hashtag pep so we know that you listen to this episode.
Yeah.
As if we have so many people tweeting us that we need to filter out which ones actually listen to the episode.
Ben, tweet us hashtag pep.
Ben, tweet us hashtag pep. Do it. Make a Twitter account just for us.
Just do it in Discord.
Do it in Discord. Hashtag pep us in Discord. Next week is going to be our annual. I say annual. We've done it once before.
Oh, we've
Our
only done
annual
this for 1 year.
top 21 albums. We're almost through 2 years of this.
Jesus, man.
We're
almost through
we're
100
getting through
episodes, too.
Yeah, we're progressing as much as electronic music progresses, and other albums that might be talked about next week, because we're doing our top 5 2021 albums. I think this year we're both on the same page, whereas last year Joey did 5 albums that he found and discovered or had a big impact on him in 2020, and I did 5 albums that were released in 2020. This year we're both, I think, going with albums strictly released in 2021.
Yeah,
So there might be some overlap there, but there will be
yeah,
some overlap there. You guys can probably guess one if you've listened to our episodes this year. But yeah, so we're gonna be doing top fives plus some honorable mentions. You know how top 5 shows work, right? Lists. People like lists, so we're doing lists, and I like making lists. I like doing top 5 albums of years. I've done it even before the podcast just because it's fun for me. So we're gonna be doing that, talking about that. Get your all's 5 top 5s ready so you can drop them next week when we do that.
yeah. Let us know.
Let us know. Stay in our feedback loop.
Bye.